How much is your landlord actually allowed to increase your monthly rent? Well, this is a question we get all of the time, and it's one that we are going to answer in today's video. There's a lot of rules and regulations around landlord and tenant relationships, especially when it comes to things like rent increases. And I think it's something that's not only important for tenants to understand what their rights are as tenants, but also for landlords to understand what they are and aren't allowed to do. As always, if you like this kind of content or get any value out of this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. And now let's get into it. So first of all, how often are landlords allowed to increase rents? Well, for the majority of residential properties, they can do so every 12 months. And that's either 12 months from the beginning of the lease term or 12 months from the last rental increase. Now, when doing so, landlords have to provide at least 90 days written notice to the tenant before actually making the rental increase. And there's standard forms on the Landlord and Tenants Tribunal or Landlord and Tenants Board websites that landlords should be using in order to provide the tenant with written notice. So for the most common question we get, how much can landlords actually increase monthly rents? Well, the government actually sets rental increase guidelines each year based on the Ontario CPI as well as inflation levels. And in 2023, this rental increase amount was capped at 2.5%. So for example, if you're renting for $3,000 a month at this 2.5% rate that we have for 2023, your rent could go up by $75 per month. Now, there are exceptions where landlords are permitted to increase rents past the set amount by the government, and those are rental units that were occupied for the first time after November 15th, 2018. These units are actually exempt from rent control, and larger increases are permitted by the landlord. So just to reiterate, if you are in a new building, a new addition to a home that's a rental unit, or a new basement apartment that have been occupied, whether it's by a tenant or the owner, after November 15th, 2018, these units are actually exempt from rent control policies, and rents can be increased beyond the allowable amount. I don't necessarily agree with this exemption rule, but it is an unfortunate truth for tenants. So just to be clear, if you're a tenant that's in a building that's been rented long before 2018 and is under the rental control policy, and your landlord asks you to increase the rent by 5 to 10%, which is more than the allowable amount, you have the right to say no as a tenant, and the landlord's not allowed to evict you because you're not allowing that unallowed rental increase. On the other hand, if you're in a building that's exempt from rental increases and the landlord asks you to increase, $100 or $200 a month, you have to make a decision of, do you want to continue to live there for that additional cost, or should you look elsewhere? And a lot of these scenarios are a bit subjective depending on how long you've been there and what the rental prices are elsewhere at this time. So if your landlord tells you that your rent is going up and you aren't sure if they're allowed to make these changes or not, feel free to reach out to me and my team. My direct number and email are in the description below. We would be more than happy to help guide you through this process. Thanks so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.